So this war between Israel and Hamas continues to drag on. And as it does, President Biden and other world leaders are requesting for Israel to accept a ceasefire, to pretty much let Gaza live. Now, here's what we know. President Biden today, he discussed tactical pauses in Gaza with Netanyahu. However, he's rejected these, and he rejects them time and time again. His asks are pretty clear. I will address those in just a moment. But here's what I can tell you. They talked about the possibilities of a tactical pause. This would allow civilians the opportunity to safely leave the area, to go and get food, to go and get fuel, water, medication, and just assistance. That's what they're discussing. But here's where things get very interesting. Right now, other countries are looking at the United States and President Biden himself saying that we control Israel. Because here's what's happening. Right now, there's a bill on the table for $14.3 billion to go to Israel. We already send Israel funding every single year. I want to show you this chart. This chart right here is the U.S. economic and military aid to Israel. This is from all the way back here from 1951 to 2023 over here. In yellow, this is the economic aid. In blue is military aid to Israel. And you can see we have not skipped a year since over here in 1967. So it's been a long time. Every single year, and even this year alone, we sent about $3.5 billion to Israel. There's an additional request for $14.3 billion right here, which has not been approved. Now, with that said, the reason why this funding is so important is because Israel needs it. Okay? This is military equipment, munitions. But here's the thing. The rest of the world is looking at the United States and President Biden as we are the ones that are allowing Israel to continue to bomb and go into Gaza, which is taking thousands and thousands of innocent lives. Right now, according to the latest report, over 10,000 people have lost their life. Now, they are discussing these tactical pauses. But here's something that another senator is bringing up. This is Senator Bernie Sanders. Here's what he had to say. He says, well, I don't know how you can have a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire, with an organization like Hamas, which is dedicated to turmoil and chaos and destroying the state of Israel. And I think what the Arab countries in the region understand is that Hamas has got to go. So what we need right now, the immediate task right now, is to end the bombing, to end the horrific humanitarian disaster, to go forward with the entire world for a two-tier, two-state solution to the crisis to give the Palestinian people hope. So he's pretty much saying, we need to, right now, the immediate task is to end the bombing and to end the horrific humanitarian disaster. That is true. We have to. Now, what is going on right now is there are trucks trying to get into Gaza. Look at this. This is this is today, just a little while ago. It says another 92 aid trucks enter Gaza through the Egypt-Gaza-Rafah border crossing on Monday. A Rafah border crossing official told ABC News. So far, a total of 570 aid trucks with supplies including food, water, and medicine have now entered Gaza, where the humanitarian crisis is worsening by the day. Okay? We continue to see more and more supplies heading into Gaza. That's good news. The problem is Hamas is continuing to take over some of these supplies. This is one of the reasons why President Biden and other world leaders are asking for a rolling pause. Look at this. So, what they're proposing is a humanitarian pause. There will be no pause. That's what was asked to Netanyahu. And he said, well, there'll be no ceasefire, general ceasefire in Gaza without the release of our hostages. As far as tactical little pauses, an hour here and an hour there, we've had them before, I suppose. will check the circumstances in order to enable goods, humanitarian goods, to come in, or our hostages, individual hostage to leave. But I don't think there's going to be a general ceasefire. With that said, one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that this is what is causing many people say this is the start of World War III. And I talked about this yesterday. And I said that if we see attacks on citizens of other countries, for example, there was a grandmother and 3 children that lost their lives to a strike yesterday in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, the border. Well, this caused Hezbollah to say that there will be more pain. Israel is going to feel the pain. This is what is going to cause an additional or a widening of this war. And this is why the United States is in the middle of it, because the United States doesn't want this to turn into a war. We have to get rid of this as soon as possible. One of the reasons why is because, and not just because of the loss of life, not just because the pro-Palestinian protest, it's actually because of something that's going to happen in about a year from today. That is a presidential election. That's the concern. Many lawmakers are obviously concerned with the loss of life, but they're very concerned with the other party gaining control. Think about this for a second. Right now, and it doesn't matter who the president is or is potentially going to be in the next year. But what about the House of Representatives and the Senate? They are both fairly close. They're pretty evenly divided. The House of Representatives here in the United States is controlled by Republicans. And I believe they have less than a 10-vote majority. So it's pretty tight. I think it's like a 7-vote majority. In the Senate, it is split 51-49 in favor of Democrats. They have a 2-vote majority. Here's the problem. If those 2 seats flip to Republican, Republicans would then have the House and the Senate. And if there's a Democratic president, that person's going to have to veto every single bill that they push through. And if there's not a Democratic president and it's a Republican president, then Republicans will have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And they can pretty much push through anything that they want. That is what lawmakers are worried about. And so this is why some are saying that we have to get additional relief into Israel, when others say, no, we cannot send any more money to Israel because we already do it. We already send about $3.5 billion every single year to Israel. And that's been consistent since about 2010. So what they're now asking for is, why do we continue to send this money? What's it going to? And this is where Republicans are now saying that if you want us to really do something for you, for Democrats, because Democrats are asking for that $14.3 billion in additional funding without pulling it from anywhere else. Republicans are pulling it from the IRS. But just today, it says Senate Republicans unveil a border security demand for Ukraine funding. Now, I could go through this entire thing, and they're pretty much just going through immigration reforms, demands of instead of sending money for part of that $105 billion package, instead of funding that and what they're calling frivolous spending, they want to send that money or some of that money to the border. But instead of hiring thousands of new law enforcement professionals or thousands of new asylum officials, they want to use that money correctly. And that could take time. But we will see what happens. The one thing I can tell you is right now, President Biden and other world leaders continue to be rejected by Netanyahu. And most likely, when President Biden asks again in the next few days for a ceasefire so that we can increase our humanitarian efforts, he will be rejected again. And this is why many are saying that this is just the beginning of World War III, because Netanyahu doesn't care what other people are saying, what they're asking for, their demands. What he cares about is his people, the hostages. And until they are released, he is going to continue to bomb Gaza. So, that's what we know at this time. As always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. But again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.